Today is Thursday, March 15th, 2018. The time is 6:30 p.m. and the regular meeting of the Greensburg Redevelopment Commission is called to order. At this time, please silence your electronic devices. And if everybody would stand, we'll begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To comply with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the city requests that participants in this meeting complete a voluntary anonymous survey that is available on the table in the back of the room. Judy, would you conduct roll call, please?
David Weigel.
Present.
Adam Winslow. Ken Dornick.
Present.
Shannon McClure. Present. Cody Kaufman. Present.
Do we have Darren, do you have to
Do we
swear
need to swear
Darren
him
into
in?
this? Your Honor? Your Honor.
Probably next month.
Probably next month?
I don't have any paperwork, so I'll have to check.
Okay.
Sir. We should have gotten, Darren is the city council rep.
Okay. Thank you, Judy. Approved minutes of our February 15th, 2018 meeting. Are there any, everybody's received those, hopefully had a chance to review them. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If there are no corrections to the minutes, they stand approved as presented. No items under old business. Mr. May, could you give us an update of the project status for Veterans Way Phase 2?
Good evening.
Good evening.
The big activity on Veterans Way Phase 2 has been the right-of-way activities. I am handing you an email from our consultant. That is a status report on the right-of-way. There are, as I'm sure you're aware, 7 parcels involved with the project, 2 of which are owned under the same people. 4 of them, offers were made and they either didn't respond or didn't respond favorably, and we're moving forward with those 4 to the next step in the process. 1 parcel has been secured. I don't think we have the paperwork back yet on it, but they're agreed to the offer. 1 parcel has some HUD involvement, and I believe they're on board, but they're awaiting HUD's review and approval. They've asked for another extension of time for HUD to get done doing their thing, and we have told them that's agreeable. And the remaining parcel, there is a question. They have a remnant of ground that they reached out to the city and asked us if we would be interested in acquiring it also. We could not do that as a part of the project, but we may have some interest otherwise, and we're looking into that, so we don't know the status of that situation yet. Otherwise, our consultant is continuing with the work on the plans and doing those things that they need to do to move us forward. Again, the right-of-way acquisition is on the critical path.
Pretty much according to schedule. Optimistically.
Yeah, we think we can still get where we want to be, but right-of-way is not traditionally as bad as environmental documentation, but it's one of those things that we really have limited control of. We can make all of our responses as timely as possible, and we're trying to do that, and I think we're doing what we can do in a timely fashion, but there still is a process that we have to go through.
Any questions for Mr. May regarding Veterans Way? While you're there, do you mind doing a Lincoln Street update?
Can. I have to share with you a copy of the final plans for Lincoln Street. It is much as we had talked about all along. It involves new curbs and gutters and sidewalks, new railing at the along the creek wall there near the Washington Street intersection. New curb ramps. Jody has always expressed an interest in some sidewalk in the block from Walnut to First. While we aren't going to specifically include a quantity for that, we will have a unit price. So when we see dollar amounts, that can be considered as to how much additional you might elect to spend to go on up through there. And the other thing is we do have street lighting in for the entire length of the project, starting where the previous Lincoln Street project ended with the street lights. So they'll be the same or very, very similar fixtures, and they will be spaced in a comparable fashion and should perpetuate that environment on down the remainder of the way. The notice to contractors is scheduled to be in tomorrow's paper, and that is in keeping with our advertising requirements for opening bids on the 2nd of April by the Board of Works. We have not finished the engineer's final estimate. Candidly offer that it will likely be greater than where we started. How much greater, I don't have a sense of yet. If for no other reason, the guardrail turns out to be a somewhat expensive item.
That's what I was going to ask. Have you found out anything else?
I have not worked with that any further. We are going to go ahead and bid a rail like what's further north on Lincoln Street, and we will continue to work on that. And if we can find a more economical way, even after letting the project, we can always make the change. That will be one of the later things that happens. In order to meet, let me back up. This project is scheduled to have community crossing matching grant funds in it. We need to have what NDOT refers to as a signed contract. It's actually an accepted Form 96 by the Board of Works. And in order to get that to NDOT on their schedule, they say that we have to have all the paperwork in by the 15th of April. And then their next breath, they said, but don't wait till the last minute. So our goal is to award. Yeah, is a deadline or isn't it? But anyway, in order to do that, we hope to be able to award the contract in the Board of Works meeting on the 2nd. Now that begs the question, you're paid for it. So you need to agree how much money they can have. Earlier today, there was a discussion about having a special meeting of the Redevelopment Commission on Monday, the 2nd, immediately after the Board of Works meeting.
When are the bids due?
The 2nd?
Oh, so they're due the 2nd at the Public Works.
Yes. And we hope to make that the award that evening.
Okay. So yeah, probably will need to know.
And what if they don't make the award that evening?
We've kind of got till the 15th.
Do we need to have a meeting immediately after, or should we have a meeting a day or 2 or 3 later?
We could wait a day or two, but
I don't mean to poke,
is there a reason not to?
Well, will you need any time to go through those bid packets to make sure that they
Our
add it?
our desire is in the Board of Works meeting to have this first on the new business agenda. While they're taking care of their other business, we will review at least the mathematics, which is the area that tends to be problematic. And actually, apparently contractors have bought calculators over the years, because anymore they do a little better job than they used to.
They're automatically on cell phones, that's why.
Okay.
So we think we can quickly do the math check and make sure that's okay, and in a little more detail, and Chris may want to also look at the documents and assure that all of the executions are correct and that sort of thing. That's pretty much what I've
I guess my question is immediately after sufficient time, or should we give 24 hours? Will the Board of Works say we should have company XYZ, and our thing will just be, well, that's more money than we're.
I guess
able
as
to
I
spend.
envision it, they will say, we award the contract subject to the approval of the redevelopment commission funding it. If you don't fund it, then, Chris, am I off course here?
that's correct.
If you don't fund it, it dies. If you do fund it,
But
we're good.
I guess my real question is, does that put too much pressure on you to give us an answer immediately?
Not at
after
this
the
point.
meeting? No?
At
Is
this
it all
point,
under a base bid, or are you doing a base bid plus alternates?
we are doing, the base bid will be unit prices per standard
Okay.
highway work. And we are providing one alternate bid. And that alternate is, if awarded, we have a second CCNG project that will open that same night. So if you get both, we're asking the contractor to offer a deduct lump sum amount on each of the two contracts. That could be zero or any number they choose to insert there if they get both. Last year, there were voluntary offers in that one. We hadn't asked for it. At the time, we viewed that as a counter proposal and declined to pursue that. But this year, we're building it into the bidding documents.
So when you say if they get both, so are there two divisions of this? Is that you're bidding two?
We have two separate community crossing
Okay.
projects.
All right, okay, that's what.
The other one is overlay on, I think, 4 different streets in the city.
Okay, so
and
that's
then
not
the
part
length
of this.
street. No,
Okay.
but we would ask for a potential deduct if they
Because
get
if
both.
they had both of them, then there
Might
could be
be
a
some
cost
economy of
savings.
scale.
I get it, okay, all right.
Probably, there won't be, in the real world, there won't be a great savings on the Lincoln Street project. It probably will help the other way because it's a much smaller project. And usually the bigger project more nearly carries itself, and you gain on the smaller one. But nonetheless, we'll ask.
So
and
you
see
don't
what they
have a
say.
ton of alternates to add, subtract. So if you're just taking a base bid, you could tentatively award it subject to review and approval of redevelopment commission. And then if you think you can have that done, what time does the Board of Public Works meet?
They meet at 5 p.m. City Council will meet at 7. They typically run maybe 45 minutes.
Yeah,
So at 6, if we're,
so 6 o'clock we could do,
yeah.
okay,
I think that's good with me.
I'm fine.
As long as it's not putting too much of a crunch on you guys working the numbers.
I don't think so. I want it done.
You're professionals.
So,
But they, just so you know, I'll be gone
What?
for work on the land of that week, so.
Okay.
I got something going on that day that I
I
think.
was just 2 meetings left in Christmas, so I want to make sure we.
April 2nd, 6 p.m.
Oh, I know where.
I think with that, we could probably,
Yeah.
we could
Make
make it a
that
day
work.
later, but I'd like to, end not.
be able to go to the city council meeting and say we've awarded the contract and
Subject to
Redevelop
review and
Commission
redevelopment
is-
commission approval.
so we'll plan on a special meeting on Monday, April 2nd at 6 p.m.
Okay.
Better advertise that too.
It will need to be advertised, yes. It will be a special meeting for you.
And good job. These are quite fancy. I can't make any sense of them, but they look
Do they
really
look-
awesome.
Looks like fun.
I
Do they
suppose
look-
a person who actually builds this stuff will think that these are just humdingers.
They
So
look store-bought.
they do. I was like, wow, that's fancy.
It's a professional job. That's,
Yes, you worked hard on that, though. I'm not trying to be smart there. You did work very hard, and thank you for all the time you put into this, because I know it was hard to
and
get that.
it wasn't just me. I've had some help. Mark's helped me quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I want to acknowledge his assistance. It's been great.
They put a lot of time in it.
I know that they have.
It's, it's $1.5 million, $2 million project. I don't know. It deserves a good job that will get the city a good price.
Have any contractors that reached out, kind of interested?
We have
I mean, O'Mara's normally,
We have a couple that we
That
are
kinda-
familiar with,
Yeah,
and
that-
we will make sure
they have sets
they
of
get
plans.
this. And as I said, the ad will come out tomorrow. We probably won't get requests before Monday or Tuesday.
Right,
It is a pretty quickly moving thing. 2 weeks basically to bid opening. There's nothing, I shouldn't say that, there's a couple of items in there, the handrail or the guardrail and the light fixtures are, they're not like a Saturn rocket kind of a specialty item, but everything else in there is standard highway items, and contractors are very familiar with those items.
But those would be your own lead time items.
And even that,
Not enough to hurt us.
no, I don't think so. I've had experience where you get to building the project and there's a kind of a specialty item in it. And the guy bid it, he bid a price, and the price I guess was okay, but when you get to building it, you start getting questions that you can come to the conclusion that he had no idea what he was bidding, but he still bid her, so
That's it.
it happens.
Any other questions about Lincoln Street?
Second.
Thank you, sir.
One thing I will share, I guess, we are going just north of Main Street, about, I don't know, 20 feet. That is NDOT's road down there. And so we elected not to get on their portion of it. We have been talking about doing something with Main Street. We had actually asked for a federally funded project for curbs and gutters and sidewalk along Main Street. The state did not award that to us, but they have a resurfacing project on Main Street east and west that they're working on, and they led us to believe that they will address the sidewalk and maybe the curb situation there. The point of all that being that when they do that work, they can wrap around the corner and tie into what we have done and make it all finished. Getting further south than we are gets into their signal installation, gets into their curb ramps. They've got the bridge project coming up, I think in 19 for Gas Creek structure. And so it seemed like a very prudent place to use.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Next item on our agenda is approval of claims. We have 2 claims.
Excuse me, David.
Yes, sir.
I did forget to mention that I received an invoice from Andy Sholey for the surveying work on Lincoln Street. Came in, I think yesterday actually. It's not in your claim packet, but it will be here for your consideration next month.
Okay. Alrighty. We have 2 separate claims from American Structure Point. One is for $18,330. The other one is for $17,210. So that's $35,540. At the end of February, we had $851,826.42 in the bank, so I think we can afford to pay that. So I would entertain a motion to pay these 2 bills from American Structure Point.
Motion.
Thank you, Jody. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kim. Motion made and seconded. Those all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0. That concludes our agenda for the evening. Our next regular meeting will be on April 19th, but we'll have at 6:30 p.m. But then on Monday, April 2nd, we'll meet again at 6 p.m. for our special meeting. Great.
If I- if
6
I may-
p.m. right here.
If I may, there's
Yes.
a couple of other sheets in the packets that Mark had given me today. And the head on them is Veterans Way Phase 2, Sandra Road Construction Point. Basically what they are is the monies that we've received back from the state reimbursements. They're not up to date. We believe it's because NDOT just is behind the wall on it a little bit.
Okay.
So my point of that is we've got some money coming back from them that will, of course, help us out in the long run. They're just not hard.
Okay.
So the X on there where it says submitted to NDOT, that is an X meaning yes and not, okay.
So all of those have been submitted for
Yes.
reimbursement?
Yeah.
And then 80%, yeah.
So his highlight column in the middle of those, the net amount, that's what he's expecting back from them.
Right. Good deal.
I mean, we're not talking about a tremendous amount of money.
And it looks at like his net amount pretty well, it always agrees with the payment received amount, not to the right, so.
Historically.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? We'll adjourn our meetings. See everybody hopefully on April 2nd. Thank you all.